What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video today I'm going to go over all of the dragons from Dragon Ball that we see throughout the series. This is kind of the continuation of my set of videos that I was doing where I went and explained the Dragon Balls in my last video, and that'll be linked somewhere. This video I'm explaining the dragons, and then the next video I'm going to explain the Shadow Dragons. So hit that notification bell, hit that subscribe button so that way you don't miss that video, and then that'll be coming out, eventually here in the next few weeks. But I ain't gonna lie, I thought about trying to do like a big script for this, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna wing it. This is my thoughts on the dragons. This is just my description, just from looking at them, and I'm gonna explain obviously like how many Dragon Balls does it take to get them. Do they need a password? Who made them as best I can, and all of that. But yeah, this is just me, just no script, and we're just gonna see how this one goes. If you guys like this format with me just talking and trying to explain, let me know. If not, I can continue with the scripts. That does make it easier. But if you guys want some videos of me just talking and just my own thoughts and explanations, please let me know how this one goes. But we're gonna start off where it all starts off, and that's with Earth and Shenron. Now Earth canonically has 3 separate dragons, but we've had Shenron got made twice technically. So he was originally made by Kami, and then when Kami died he went dormant. But since Dende didn't have enough time to make his own dragon model, he just used the one that Kami had originally used to recreate Shenron. Technically Shenron's been brought to life twice, but he is still the original Shenron. He's been upgraded over the years. He's kind of started out where he used to grant 1 wish when he was with Kami, and then after Dende brought him back, Dende made it where he could grant 2 wishes, although the show tends to kind of forget that at one point he could grant 2 wishes. It's kind of very hit or miss with Shenron. Sometimes he grants 1 and then he just leaves. Sometimes he grants 2, and my headcanon's always just been like Shenron can choose how many wishes he wants to grant at the time. But I think in the most current we see him in Dragon Ball Superhero, he grants 3 wishes. So currently he grants 3 wishes. There's 7 Dragon Balls that you have to collect in order to summon Shenron, and there is no password. As long as you get them all together, all you have to do is call out the dragon and he will come out. But he's actually not even the original dragon that was made on Earth, because that title actually goes to Super Shenron. Now Super Shenron is interesting because we see him in GT. He comes from the Black Star Dragon Balls. There's 7 of those. Once again, you don't have to have a password to summon him. If you get the balls together, you can just call out and he'll get summoned. But now Super Shenron looks almost identical to Shenron. There's some differences in the horns, and I think he's more spiky, whereas Shenron's more scaly. He's also like crimson red and very kind of evil looking. And basically, this dragon was the result of nameless Namekian who came before Piccolo and Kami separated originally. So technically, the Namekian that Piccolo currently is now, except not, because he's not the original one. That whole thing is kind of convoluted. I can explain it all in another video on how exactly I think all that works, but basically what you gotta know is this dragon is super strong because he comes from a time when Piccolo and Kami were originally fused together and kind of in their prime. With that, the fun part about him is after you use his Dragon Balls and he grants your wish, when they spread out, they don't just spread out in Earth. They actually go all throughout the universe, and they also don't turn to stone like other Dragon Balls do. So this is actually kind of like a flawed version of Dragon Balls when you think about it, because the stone portion of that, like I explained in my last Dragon Ball video, is actually important for disseminating negative energy. Well, these Dragon Balls don't have to do that because they blow up the planet a year after the wish was made. So unless you return them to that planet, they will blow up. I think they disseminate their negative energy by blasting off into the universe, essentially using that as like their propulsion away from Earth. So that's kind of my headcanon as to why they don't have to turn to stone, but also that means that there is no cooldown for summoning this Shenron. Normally you have to wait a year. With Super Shenron, you don't have to wait a year. You could just, as long as you can get the balls, you can just resummon him as many times as you want within that 1-year time frame, and we see them do that in GT. Also, returning the balls back to Earth won't stop it. You have to return them to the spot they were when you originally made the wish. So like in Dragon Ball GT, though they got moved, it's kind of implied that it's that pot that they find in with all the skulls in it. So yeah, personally, kind of wish they'd have explored this option a little bit more, but essentially they're no longer active because Piccolo sacrificed himself at the end of GT. Thus, making these Dragon Balls kind of in-op. So they're pretty much done. It was an interesting plot device. It was a cool different version of Shenron, but honestly, regular Shenron's fine. We don't need Super Shenron in a way, because he's kind of just, he's a better Shenron, but he's way more dangerous to use. But I do like using the Dragon Balls a higher stake than we get with anything else. So I did like that about it. But higher stakes definitely lead me into talking about the next dragon from Earth, that being Black Smoke or Evil Shenron. This dragon is from the Earth Dragon Balls after they've been used too often, thus not being allowed to release all of their negative energy and just it collecting up. So whenever they get too much, the Dragon Balls will actually break. Now when they break and you try and use them, instead of regular Shenron, Evil Shenron comes out. So Evil Shenron looks way different to regular Shenron in that he's no longer serpentine. The top half of him actually looks more like a cartoonish devil dragon, in that like he actually has wings, he's got spikes all over him, he's very darker, he's got red eyes, he laughs and he jokes. He does not grant a single wish, and he actually smokes cigars. Basically, he comes out just to tell you that you're screwed. Then he goes off, and when he separates, instead of the Dragon Balls turning to stone, they go off and they form the Shadow Dragons. And I'll get to the Shadow Dragons in my next video. This guy was cool, because I kind of wish they would have had to bring the dragons back together and recreate him, and maybe seen like him revert back into Shenron by the end of that. Because by the end of that show, like, they've purified all the Dragon Balls and Shenron just comes back. But it kind of would have been more interesting to me for them to just collect the Dragon Balls, them not get purified, and bring back Black Smoke Shenron as like the ultimate bad guy. Or at least maybe we get to see him one more time before regular Shenron comes back. He's just kind of there for a minute, but he's there to let you know that something bad is going on and that you have screwed up. So I do like that part. Canonically though, after this, the next dragon we see not on Earth is the Namekian dragon, Porunga. Now, Porunga, once again, 7 Dragon Balls. They're just larger than the Earth Dragon Balls, being the size like basketballs. And you do actually have to have a password to summon Porunga. And it's not a password you can say in the regular English, like that everybody seems to speak in the Dragon Ball universe. You actually have to summon him using ancient Namekian language. And I can't remember what it was, so, and I guess I could look it up real quick, but I'm not even sure the wiki will tell me. Either way though, whenever you summon Porunga, all the same stuff happens, except instead of a Earth Dragon coming out, which I would assume that Earth Dragons and Dragon Ball are just based off of Shenron, essentially a demon comes out. And that's what he looks like. He's less dragon and more dragonoid. He looks very, you know, he's got long buff arms, his shoulders are huge. Like, Porunga is jacked, right? He's got, you know, horns coming out of his shoulders, out of the top of his head. He's got a frill going down his back, like, you know, to show that he is a dragon, but he's definitely more dragonoid than like a traditional dragon. Porunga grants 3 wishes, and he can bring people back multiple times, implying that he is definitely stronger than Shenron. Probably because Guru made him, and he was more wiser and older than both Dende and Kami at the time of making the Dragon Balls. So that's probably where we get that. So Porunga's cool. He can bring it back more than once. The Namekian Dragon Balls seem to be easier, and they won't like kind of disperse across their whole planet after being used. As far as we can tell, we actually just never really see them do that, because when they're used on Namek, they follow Guru back to Earth whenever he comes back to life. And then they are all stored in different Namekian villages on that planet. So it's kind of, don't really know. We know they do turn to stone, but we also know that the Namekian year is shorter than the Earth year, so you don't have to wait as long to use them. By far the stronger of like the 2 dragons that we see in Dragon Ball Z for sure. Speaking of dragons that look more dragonoid than dragon, I like the fact that in Dragon Ball Daima, they brought back the Porunga looking dragon for their Dragon Balls and gave us, and the fun part here is like, his name is actually still Porunga. I just looked it up. That's what I took a second on. Turns out like his name is also Porunga. So there is like a connection there between like Porunga made by Guru, who was probably within the first few generations of them leaving the demon realm, at least as according to Daima's lore, knowing and making his own set of Dragon Balls. So it kind of would make sense that he would rename his dragon Porunga there, as well as the dragon being named Porunga in the Demon Realm. But I love the fact they brought back Porunga's design, although he is a little more slimmer. He's still super buff, but like his arms aren't quite as longer. His face is a little bit more reptilian than Porunga's is, but other than that, the main flare is there with the shoulder spikes and the things. He's also Crimson Red, matching more of the Demon Realm's power versus the green, like the Namekian power up on Earth, which is also kind of interesting. When you got like dragons associated with like evil in Dragon Ball, they've made them crimson, whereas if you got dragons associated primarily with like good in the Earth or Earth-like planets, they make those green. It's a really fun little bit that they do. But anyway, this guy comes from 3 Dragon Balls. You do have to speak Ancient Namekian to awaken him with a password, but he'll come out and he'll essentially grant you 1 wish, whatever that wish is. Now, it's super hard to get them, though, because Neva was smart enough to go, okay, I've got 3 Dragon Balls. To prevent people from just making wishes willy-nilly that might hurt people, he actually created Guardians. Essentially, they're robots that guard the Dragon Balls, and they were stronger than the Demon King. So literally no one could get them until, like, they created the Majins or, like, our heroes came for the show. So it was really cool that they brought back the Namekian style dragon for Dragon Balls created by Namekian, which unfortunately they did not do in Dragon Ball Super, because when Monaito, the Namekian that was on planet Cereal, which is freaking hilarious, made his 2 Dragon Balls, he made his dragon look more like the people that are on the planet. Thus, Orunbo, I believe is how this says to pronounce this dragon's name, looks more amphibious versus the regular dragons, which look more like Dragonoid. So he looks more like an axolotl, kind of. And you can kind of see that. But essentially, he's still got the shape of like a classic dragon that we think, like a Chinese-style dragon that we see. But he also has like more axolotl-y features. So instead of like spikes, he's got like more like, you know, they have like the gills that are like kind of like tubes and they look like really leafy. His like protrusions look more like that. Now, he's fun because he does come from 2 Dragon Balls, and those Dragon Balls are like this big. He also grants one of the more powerful wishes that we see when Granola asks him to be the strongest person in the universe. And the fun part here is like he actually tells him he can't do that unless Granola also helps and gives up the majority of his life in order to make that happen. So we actually see him set limits, yet still grant the wish. Normally, if Shenron's not able to do it, he just won't grant the wish for you. So he kind of expanded the lore of what dragons were actually capable of. So I love the fact that we got to see him. I love the fact that we got to see a new dragon and new Namekians to show, hey, they weren't all on planet Namek clearly. And, you know, some of them did survive other places, also having, ironically, run-ins with Saiyans. So, yeah. Kind of all I have to say about it. We don't really see him very long. I think he comes out twice, grants 2 wishes. The same wish twice, actually. And so, yeah. So we'll see if he ever makes a reappearance. I'm guessing he won't. He's probably not going to be as important to the final arc as, like, you know, they'll probably just use Shenron. But they've also kind of moved away from using the Dragon Balls in Super as often. Probably because they introduced with the Super Dragon Balls. So essentially, this is Super Shenron. And I might have been calling it the evil, like the red dragon. I might have been calling the red Shenron Super Shenron, but I think he was also Super Shenron. I don't know, I'm getting a lot of names here, but if I was wrong there, let me know in the comments down below. But this Super Shenron is from the Super Dragon Balls. Now, the Super Dragon Balls are called the Super ones because they're pretty much the size of planets. And they're actually spread out into 2 separate universes. And whenever you bring them together, you do have to say a password in an ancient language in order to summon Super Shenron. Now, Super Shenron is fun because he's kind of, if you really look at him, a combination of all of the dragons that we see through the series. He's very long and serpentine like Shenron is, but he's also very muscular like Porungos were, and he actually has like wings kind of like evil Shenron, except his wings are connected to like his front set of arms, which gives him this really cool distinction, and his face looks just like more Dragonoid. So I like the fact that he kind of draws from different elements of all of the other dragons, but he's also just clearly his own thing. He's also clearly gigantic, and he's clearly the most powerful dragon because all the other Dragon Balls are based off of the Super Dragon Balls originally. At least I think they are. There's just lore with Dragon Balls. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I think things are canon and they end up not being canon. But honestly, though, he was awesome. We've seen him be summoned a couple of times. He'll grant any wish. He does not care. It's just an is what it is factor to him. Honestly, I think he got used pretty much exactly how we needed him to. And if you want to look at the Zamasu arc as filler, whatever. But it is what it is, but we've seen him grant 3 wishes. All of them were interesting, and it at least led to the plot, and he's not being overused because it is harder to get these Super Dragon Balls than it is to get regular Dragon Balls. That's pretty much it though, guys. That's my quick rundown of all of the dragons in Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball GT, and even Dragon Ball Diamond. That's all of them that we have seen so far throughout the series. Maybe we'll get more, maybe we won't. Do we need more? I don't really think so. Honestly, I would actually like for them to kind of bring back the Shadow Dragons and make there be some level of consequence for using the dragons in the first place. But you know what, guys? Let me know what y'all think in the comments down below. While you're down there, please remember to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you never miss another video from me, because the next Dragon Ball video that I'm going to put up will be about these Shadow Dragons, and you guys aren't going to want to miss that one, because that'll kind of end this little trilogy I got. So until then, though, I will see you guys in the next video.